conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Thursday. We like to call this Thankful Thursday. We try to be thankful, and here we are, Thankful Thursday. Play it, man.
You got to be more thankful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
We thank you so much for this bountiful harvest of Domino's, KFC, and the always delicious Taco Bell.
Have you said thank you once?
Thank you.
That's just good. JP, thank you. Thank you, JP.
No, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. I'm thankful for you.
I'm thankful for you.
I'm thankful that you're thankful for me. That's good. Thank you. Yeah, we're glad we're like, hey, JP on the board. How you doing today, man?
Man, I'm good. How about you?
Sitting in studio with us, Butters. Butters hanging out. Just shout, Butters, so they can hear your voice in the background somewhere.
I'm thankful.
I'm glad. All right, listen, we got a great show laid on for you. Don't forget, it is Thursday, and so Thankful Thursday, one of the things we're thankful for is we have some Butters and Lee halfway through hour number 2. So stand by for that. Butters and Lee halfway through hour number 2, and then there's a triple dipper. So just hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right. The Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, we got to talk about it. NATO 2.0. It's like a NATO reboot. I mean, NATO, it's one of those things that's out there, and unless you've paid attention or been militarily inclined, especially Cold War era, you might not have really thought much about NATO in recent years. But NATO's thinking about us, and NATO got busy in the last few days. And I'll be honest with you, the Trump administration has taken and pushed NATO into new ground. It's like a brand new version. And I'll tell you why that matters to us. And I'll tell you what they're doing different. That's coming up. Number 1, Triple Dipper, NATO 2.0. And then number 2, holy cow, Every once in a while, you look at what's happening with the left and you think, my gosh, could y'all self-own yourselves a little bit more? Could you just put that foot in that mouth a little bit deeper? Well, we're going to talk about it. I've got number 2 on the Triple Dipper planned out. It's almost like a woke world, but it's really a bunch of self-owns. So yeah, number 2 is called the big self-own. And then number 3, assuming we can get to it, but I think we will. There's a lot of talk right now about Fed Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. He is not going to be on the Christmas card list for the White House. I'm just telling you, he is not in good standing. Why? What's going on? What is the Fed, by the way? What do we do at the Federal Reserve? What does the Fed do for us besides make the interest rates more difficult? We'll talk about all of that. I'm calling it the Big Fed. The Big Fed, number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, well, let me jump on into today's Rightside Way opening monologue. I'll remind you guys that, as always, Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. Stan McDonald, a 30-year veteran in the practice of law, is the daily sponsor of the Rightside Way monologue, and I'll tell you more about Stan here in just a few minutes. All right, so kicking it off, I got to say, one of the big stories out there right now is the fact that Democrats in New York City just nominated a radical Islamic fundamentalist, defund the police socialist to be their candidate for mayor. Let that job description sink in. Mayor. And let that description of him sink in. A radical Islamic fundamentalist, defund the police socialist. By the way, by his own admission. The same city that still bears the scars of the biggest terror attack in the history of the U.S., the Big Apple, the crossroads of the world, Times Square, Central Park. A city, by the way, that has an annual budget of, wait for it, $112 billion for that city. Y'all, there's only 4 states, whole states, that have a bigger budget than New York City by itself. If New York City were to separate itself and become its own country, it would have the 12th largest country economy in the world. The Democrats in that city just chose their candidate to run for mayor, Mr. Zohran Mamdani. Yep, there he is, Zohran Mamdani. He's espoused such nonsense as spending $65 million to provide so-called gender-affirming care to minors. He's a big fan of the idea of paving over municipal golf courses so we can build more affordable housing using tax dollars. He wants to take over grocery stores and have government-run grocery stores in order to fix prices in low-income neighborhoods. One of his recent social media posts said, and I quote, "Together we can tax the rich, heal the sick, house the poor, defund the police, and build a socialist New York." His words, not mine. Mamdani actually claims that he will root out bigotry across New York City with an 800% increase in funding for hate crime prevention, which sounds an awful lot like the wicked combination of DEI, CRT, and censorship that we just endured for the last 4 years. Liberals are running headlong, in my opinion, into a meat grinder of anti-liberal sentiment. I say that because they are. Keep in mind that while New York City may still be a bastion of blue politics overall, that it's also the city that recently acquitted Daniel Penny and swung more towards Donald Trump in greater degree than most any other blue city in the nation. Billionaire entrepreneur Bill Ackman, he posted an epic social media post on X this morning saying that he believes that much of New York City woke up in the last 24 hours, sort of like a buyer's remorse moment hitting the masses and realizing that socialism would devastate the Big Apple. He's already coordinating with other like-minded big money backers to find and support a write-in candidate that would change the makeup of the election. Well, we'll see. I hope it's not too little too late. But the fact is, New York City is not yet lost to us. And liberals, I believe, are potentially running into a meat grinder. And they do. They always do. Liberals always overreach. It's in their nature. They cannot see the forest for the trees. They don't know when too much of their bad ideas becomes a time of backlash. Liberals remind me of that epic story of failed leadership who could not see that they were running into danger. You know the story. The Charge of the Light Brigade. Charge of the Light Brigade. You ever read it? A narrative poem that was published in the 1850s, written by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Cannons to the left of them, cannons to the right of them, cannons in front of them, volleyed in thunder. This is the famous poem where the line comes, "From theirs not to reason why, theirs but to do or die, into the valley of death rode the 600. But it was more than a poem. It was actually written just 6 weeks after a scandalous defeat of the British Light Brigade in the Battle of Balaclava in the Boer War, 1854. The whole thing was a study in recklessness, disjointed leadership, poor communication. It was a real story. The poem was written as an ode to a thing that had just happened when British soldiers went into a meat grinder. The British were initially to charge one defensive position, but multiple factors relating to poor decision-making caused them to veer off their target. One that was heavily defended and well entrenched, by the way, is where they wound up. They charged into what became known as the Valley of Death. Over 600 troopers, lightly armed, built for speed more than sustained battle. Warnings were tried, but as history would dictate, the command, in Tennyson's words, had blundered. A 3/4-mile long charge into heavily defended valley in which the opposing force held staggering numbers by comparison. Over 20 battalions of dug-in infantry, supported by 50 artillery pieces, just blasted the Light Brigade as they charged. The opposition held their ground, gave no quarter, sending withering fire from three sides in to rain down on the ranks of the Light Brigade, which devastated their force during the charge. Some of them made it to the target, but they were unable to sustain the fight then, and they quickly had to withdraw and to avoid annihilation. One war correspondent who was present at the time, he said the Light Brigade was wiped out by their own rashness and by the brutality of their ferocious enemy. So yeah, in the end, the Light Brigade was not completely destroyed, but they were no longer combat effective. Of the just over 600 men who entered the Valley of Death, 118 were killed, 127 wounded, 60 were taken prisoner. In the end, there were only 195 men, less than 1/3 of their original combat strength, who could even take the field after that. The opposing force is said to have thought the British cavalrymen must have been drunk because of the futility of their charge. A French marshal who viewed the battle was quoted as saying, "It's magnificent, but it is not war, it is madness." To this day, the charge of the Light Brigade remains a case study for modern historians on what can go wrong when accurate military intelligence is lacking and communications are poor and orders are unclear. So why am I telling you all of this? I always have a point here. My point today is that many conservatives see the modern cultural landscape and the level of wokeness being thrust at us from all sides. And some conservatives believe that maybe we're the Light Brigade. Maybe conservatives are the Light Brigade, charging headlong into the mix, doing all we can with the odds stacked against us, riding bravely but despairingly into the breach. Well, I'm here to tell you, no, it's just the opposite. You see, the conservative position right now is the well-entrenched superior force in both numbers and capabilities. It is liberals who are the ones riding recklessly into the valley against overwhelming odds. My wife, Charlene, she has a saying that comes out periodically. We talk about it here on the show all the time. It's about modern culture. Referring to conservatives, she has a habit of saying, well, there's more of us than there are of them. And she's right. Think about it. And take heart, by the way, when you think about it. Liberal progressives would have us believe that they're in the majority, that conservatives are a bunch of old school has-beens clinging to their Bibles and guns. Not at all. The principles of conservatism, like free markets and strong families and low taxation and limited government, they are still very much the mainstream. You look at a map of the United States. If you color the map traditional red and blue for the right and left sides of politics, well, the vast majority of this nation is actually red, and for good reason. Because the vast majority of the nation does not cotton to the notions being touted by the liberal progressives. Make no mistake, just like the Light Brigade, the liberal progressives of this nation, they are a fighting force in a policy arena. I get it. They're real. They are not to be underestimated, but they are also not to be feared because there's a whole lot more of us than there are of them. But it's more than just numbers. It's more than just numbers. It's our position. It's our capabilities. It's the fact that we are, in a sense, far better equipped as conservatives. You see, the positions taken by the left are often ridiculous. They may gain ground in the beginning, kind of like a fad, right? But they seldom have staying power. They cannot hold ground in the long term. I mean, consider the weapons in their arsenal. How long can they really sustain the argument that a man can get pregnant? We hold the high ground on that one. We should never give it up. Or how about the soft on crime stance taken by so many liberal DAs? Well, the American public will not long suffer a fool who claims to want to protect them and then do nothing to do it. Or how about vaccine mandates? They tried that right on the private sector. Vaccine mandates on the private sector. Well, that died a quick death in the courts because liberals just could not understand that government simply can't do whatever it wants to do with impunity. Or how about the fight for the unborn? Conservatives stayed in the trenches on that one for 50 straight years, fighting Roe v. Wade for children in the womb. 50 years. But in the end, we won. And even Democrats now are beginning to hear the amazingly awful rhetoric coming out of those who worshiped at the feet of the abortion gods. Look, what I'm saying is this. We, conservatives, we own the high ground. We are not the ill-equipped, poorly led light cavalry charging into the valley of death. We're not. We're the ones who have the positions that are sustainable. We as conservatives are the ones who can defend our positions because they are eminently more defendable. Conservatives just need to make sure they don't allow the screeching charging of the liberal rabble to spook us off our positions. We're winning. We are. We're winning at every turn right now. And I know that New York has elected a Democrat, liberal, socialist, defund the police nut job to be their nominee. It does not mean this race is over. We cannot concede. I want our New York back. We are winning right now, and I believe we're going to win everything in the end. But like my lovely Charlene says, in this valley, there are indeed more of us than there are them. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Yeah, take a look at it. I mean, liberals always espouse positions that have trouble holding up. They have to rewrite history or rewrite science or rewrite culture or rewrite traditions in order to get there. They can't ever have anything that is sustainable, maintainable, and, oh, by the way, achievable. That puts us in the strong point. We are the ones on the high ground. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, got to tell you guys about attorney Stan McDonald. Stan McDonald, yep, indeed. He's a partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee, a 30-year veteran in the practice of law in North Alabama. Listen, I know Stan personally. I can tell you right now that not only is he the kind of guy that can advocate quite well for your legal needs and your rights and all, but he's been an absolute warrior in the trenches, in the mix, in the fray for years on all the things that right-side ruffians care about. I mean, he's an OG ruffian from way back. But yeah, attorney Stan McDonald, he has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He can stand up for you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to always say, if Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So, having said that, if you need an attorney in North Alabama, I'm going to give you his phone number. You ready? It's Stan McDonald. The law firm is Wilmer and Lee. He's an America First family man. Here's his number, 256-479-3020. That's 256-479-3020. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. No representation made. The quality of legal service be informed. Great quality of legal service for the lawyers. What do you think, JP? What do you think, JP? What do you think?
9.5. It was almost.
Okay, I'm thankful enough for that. All right, good deal. Just
7-8.
Slinging 7-8. Butter's coming in. The Russian judge giving me a hard time right now. Okay. All right. Hey, we got all kinds of stuff laid on for you. Text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text us your feedback. What do you think? Are the libs like the charge of the Light Brigade? Are they, am I off base here? What do you think? Are they charging in where we really have the high ground and we really have the more sustainable position? I'm curious your thoughts. Jenny from Decatur texted in. She sent me a meme. What'd she send? It's Thankful Thursday, she says. It's got a picture of Winnie the Pooh and the whole crew there. It says the best things in life are free. Hugs, smiles, family, friends, kisses, sleep, love, laughter, and good memories. Well, that was sweet. And thank you very much, Jenny. Bruce from Springville says, Karl Marx had the same excitement for socialism, just as New York does. Look, it led to murder for Marx and eventual collapse of the Soviet Union. Yeah, I mean, goodness, let's go find out how Venezuela's doing right now, right? Let's go find out how Cuba's doing right now. Let's go see all the great experimentations of socialism, communism, which are virtually the same, and see where we are. How many of them are hanging on? Dave from Capshaw, Alabama, sends me a meme, another Babylon Bee. Says the Babylon Bee, it has a picture of the Ayatollah Khomeini, and it says, Ayatollah proudly announces Iran has destroyed 14 bunker buster bombs with its nuclear facilities. There are people writing for the Bee right now that are just genius. Like they should be writing sitcom scripts. It's just unreal. Scott from Russellville, he says, Phil, great monologue. As long as the liberal media skew the truth and politicians just outright lie, we're going to have an uphill battle, but we will conquer in the end. I agree. I mean, take a look. I think the classic example of that, Scott, is the fact that Trump got elected. The liberal media told us he was a felon. They told us he was going to be, bankrupt. They told us they could seize his assets. They told us that lawfare worked. They told us that they had won the 2020 election. They told us that January 6th was an insurrection. They told us that Trump was the reason why. And guess what? He got elected. So there you go. I got a couple more texts. I'll get back after the break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. You guys stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This show, goes from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. Down to that lovely little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line to what we now call Fort Benning. Once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches in North Georgia and Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio audience. Then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world, going to the World Wide Web, watching us live stream every single day on YouTube, on X, on Facebook, on Rumble, and oh, by the way, on our website, rightside.media.org. And then all y'all podcasters too, thank you for listening after the fact. Listen, bottom line is this. If you guys weren't out there, it wouldn't be worth doing. We appreciate you. And so several times a show, I just try to point out how much we love this audience. So thank you very much. I gotta tell you, just almost laughable. Remember Baghdad Bob? So it's like watching that. But the Ayatollah just appeared from his hole, and he gave a recorded statement in which he made sure that the world knew that Iran had put a hard slap to the face of the United States. What? I guess in part he's saying that for his people who have to watch nothing but state-run media.
In part,
it's true. Yeah, you're right. Why'd I even say in part?
That is the sole purpose.
That is the only purpose. There's nothing about that was believable outside the borders. And I got news. I'm going to bet that a large part of his population doesn't buy it anyway. They are just, oh my gosh. Anyway, okay, we'll talk more about that as time goes. John from Huntsville checking in. He says, Phil's spectacular monologue. Also, did you hear that there are some crazy news stations out there saying the U.S. attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities were not successful? I have heard that. You know what? And here's the thing. He said, by the way, your Braves lost to the Mets. So they're never going to lose again until they do.
Well, now we're never going to win again. The season's over. So,
wait, is the season over?
Yep, now it is.
So they're out of the running now completely. They're done. They're cooked. There's no more.
Until we win again.
Until we win again.
Yeah,
okay, gotcha. JP on Sports Tomorrow. We'll find out for sure whether they're going to win or lose. But yeah, what was I about to say? Oh yeah, but the thing about okay, hang on. Use your words, Phil. Earlier today, I think it was in our staff meeting, I mentioned the fact that Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense Hegseth, had a press conference this morning, and he excoriated the press. He said, the reality is you guys hate Trump so much, you can't celebrate our military because you're too busy hating Trump. You love the idea that the mission wasn't what we believe it was. He said, we believe it was highly successful. We dropped 14 bunker buster, I'm paraphrasing here, but he dropped 14 bunker buster bombs on target as part of a 37-hour round trip, not to include all the other 100 plus, assets that flew the missions and refueled and did all the things. And then the naval assets that launched Tomahawks, and everything was on point. And all you can do is go, well, we don't know if it was successful as much as he says it was. And he pointed out, he said, why don't you do a story about what it takes to be a B-2 pilot? Why don't you do a story about something that, the American public might look at and go, wow, we have something to be proud of. You're so busy hating Trump. And I agree with that. Now, I get it. That would be a puff piece. But guess what? They do puff pieces all the time. They do they're called human interest stories. And sometimes those human interest stories mean more than these so-called news stories that they put out. So as much as they want to take a leaked intel report that was considered to be low in reliability, and it was only one part of the overall defense analysis or intelligence analysis, and leak that out, okay, run with it if you want to. But don't forget there was more involved. And don't do it in such a way that you denigrate the service members who did an amazing job. And so at least balance it out. At least go say, you know what? We don't believe Trump, but you know what? Those pilots are just, man, those are the cat's meow. We're going to go ahead and check them out and see what it takes to be a B-2 pilot. Because I got news. Takes a lot to be a B-2 pilot. Although to hear Butters talk today, the fighter guys have a lot going on too. So just saying. All right, that was a mini rant. I get credit for a mini rant. Danny from Madison gives me a follow-up from yesterday. Says, hey, Colonel, what are your thoughts on the terror secretary Trump picked up? Okay, brother, you asked me that yesterday, I think. And
It wasn't him, it was somebody else. But
no,
yeah.
it was. If you scroll up, it's in the same text string.
Oh, it is. Wow, I stand corrected.
So Danny, I don't know what to think about him. 22 years old, and he's got a position in the Department of Homeland Security or some other. I don't know. I don't know anything about him, so I can't answer the question. But it's not on topic, so thank you very much. Dustin from Hazel Green sends me a meme. What did you send me, pray tell? What are we looking at there? It's a picture of somebody playing drums. Do we know what that is? JP, are you looking at it? Who we got here? Okay.
I don't know.
Thanks, man. Dustin, appreciate you. John from Harvest says Iran had a big victory over the U.S. They destroyed 14 expensive bunker buster bombs with their nuclear program. Yes, loved it. And he also said love the monologue. Thanks, John. Jeff from Indiana says in Nashville, Indiana, promoting Rightside Radio. Oh, he's there wearing his Rightside Ruffian shirt. There you go. Appreciate you, man. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your day. All right, listen, we got a lot to talk about, and I'm going to kick it off by talking about NATO. All right, I'm an old dude sitting in the studio right now. I'm the oldest dude in the room, which is usually the case.
By far.
You can just stay out of this right now. Thank you very much. But I still have my hair, so there's that. But all that to say, I am a product of the Cold War era, all right? I'm a kid who remembers what it was like to have, talk about, what do you do in a nuclear catastrophe? And do you have to get under your desk at school? Does that really stop anything? I can still remember my dad being in the military through the Cold War era, and the talk about the Soviet Union coming through the Fulda Gap in Germany, and all the things it would take. I remember going to West Berlin, when it was a walled-in enclave of Western society in the middle of East Germany, the communist bloc country. And standing at the wall at Checkpoint Charlie, and actually touching the Berlin Wall and standing up on a viewing stand so you could see over it from the western side, and everything on the eastern side looked like just like a black and white movie. And then I could turn around and look back at West Berlin, and it was like vibrant and full of color. It was like those scenes from Wizard of Oz, where it went from black and white to suddenly in Technicolor. All that to say, I remember the Cold War era, and that's where NATO sprang up. NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is designed to be a bulwark, an alliance against the former Soviet Union. And there are some who have wondered, why do we still have NATO when the Soviets are now gone? Well, the world didn't become peaceful. It's just that one of the great pariahs on the world stage lost its mojo for a while. Still really has. The Soviet Union is not what it used to be, but the Soviet Union is now Russia, and Russia is led by a nut job named Putin, and they have lots of nukes. And Putin proved in the last few years, regardless of how you feel about the war in Ukraine right now, it doesn't matter in terms of whether or not Putin is an aggressor. He is. In 2014, Vladimir Putin decided he wanted the Crimean Peninsula, so we just took it, just annexed it. And then you kind of look around and you go, oh, wait a minute, what's happening in Syria? Well, Russia decided it wanted a warm water port, so it propped up the Assad regime. I realize there's problems with Syria now, but what they did was they propped up a terror organization known as the Assad regime in order to gain a warm water port. It is always as if Russia is determined to be on the opposite side of wherever we are. That being said, the need for NATO never went away. And it proved itself in terms of its requirements, in terms of the need for it, more so just a few years ago when Russia invaded Ukraine proper. And that war right now is ongoing. And if you looked at a map, it would be almost as if Georgia was fighting Alabama, and just past that was Mississippi, and everybody's standing there going, what's happening over there? It's that close. Poland is sitting on the border of Ukraine, wanting to make sure that the Russians don't come any closer. Poland doesn't want to go back to the days of being, part of Mother Russia. They don't want that at all. They're done with that. They had that moment and there ain't going back. So NATO still exists. And NATO is a viable and important piece of world security. But the Trump administration has determined that NATO can't keep doing what it's been doing, which is basically just sitting back and going, the United States will be there for us. The United States will be there for us. You've got the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Well, guess what? We're not in the North Atlantic. We're on the other side. But we are the leaders of NATO. And we're one of the chief funders of NATO. And we're the ones that all the NATO countries rely on. And I get that. We're the leader on the world stage. But at some point, others got to start picking up their slack. And so what just happened this week is what I'm calling the NATO reboot. NATO 2.0. The Trump administration really brought something to a new level that no one thought was possible. People are watching right now what's happening with Donald Trump being in office. And I'm going to tell you right now, the press can say what they want about whether he dropped enough bunker buster bombs on, but you know what? No one can deny the fact that the world events right now are being shaped by the United States as a leader on the world stage. NATO being one of the key examples. I'll tell you more about it after this break. We'll take that break right now. We'll come right back, and I'm going to tell you what just happened with NATO spending and why that's important. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades. That's what we're doing. By the way, I heard somebody last night on TV say something that I say on the show all the time. All that truth you can put on a bumper sticker. I was like, wait a minute, that's my line. You can't use that.
Who said that?
I don't know. It was on a sitcom or something.
Oh, sitcom.
I was like, wow. Okay.
Sue the sitcom.
Just, maybe some money in that.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm talking about NATO, right? NATO 2.0, the NATO reboot. So this has been very interesting. So NATO for years has struggled with other nations within NATO pulling what I would call a pro rata share of the load. Now, the way this works is, okay, you can't possibly look at it and go, well, Estonia, pick one of the Baltic states, or pick Poland. Poland's got a big economy. Poland's actually or Germany. None of them have an economy the size of the United States. So them putting in the exact same amount of money as us may or may not be realistic. But what they can do is put in a percentage of their GDP. And that's what everybody decided on. So when Trump was in office the first time, he made it very clear. He is tired of the United States doing everything for NATO and pulling way beyond the pro rata share of any other participating nation. Now, NATO's important. He wasn't denigrating it, but he was saying he's tired of it. He's tired of the way it is. In fact, there were several times when Trump, in classic Trump fashion, he kind of put everybody on edge. And that's what he does. That's part of his art of the deal, is he puts everybody on edge. Hey, you don't know what I'm going to do here, so I'm going to say this. And everybody went, oh my gosh, he's talking about doing away with NATO. I think especially with the fact that Russia invaded Ukraine, NATO it's got life in it. It's got more life in it than ever. In Trump's first administration, he encouraged everybody to up their spending to roughly, I think it was 2.5% of their GDP. Not everybody even made that. You got some economies that are really struggling. Spain is not doing great. Spain is kind of limping along right now. Its economy is far too socialist and is doing too many things wrong. They rely on, anyway, the bottom line is this: Spain ain't coming along the same way as everybody else. But the NATO alliance this week agreed to increase their defense spending all the way to 5% of GDP for every nation by the year 2035. That is huge, y'all. I can't even begin to tell you how huge that is. You know what that means? 5% GDP across the board. And oh, by the way, they're going to ask that everybody have to submit annual plans. Like, okay, how you doing on that? Everybody's pushing towards 5%, right? Where are you at? Where are you at? Now, it's 3.5% on pure defense spending. Because what they want is to know that everybody is prepared to be a player should there be a NATO crisis. That everybody's going to have some ability based upon their size and scope to actually defend or to protect or to intervene in some way meaningfully without just like rolling over and going, sorry, not our fight. 3.5% of GDP has to be spent on pure defense spending. The other 1.5% to make up the total 5 has to be on what they call defense-related critical infrastructure. Things like civil preparedness, resilience, cybersecurity, other things that, help to like basically innovation and research, acquisition of new weapon systems that are in the mix in the procurement process. All that to say 5%, and they agreed to it. The only NATO nation that didn't agree, again, was Spain. And Spain pushed back because they're struggling to make the 2% mark. Okay. And Trump didn't have kind words to say for Spain. He felt like they should just go ahead and say, you know what, we're going to do it, but they wouldn't. Okay, fine. I would remind Spain what happened when the Nazis needed to practice getting ready for World War II. They went ahead and intervened in the Spanish Civil War and tried out all their weapon systems on Spain. Anyway, that being said, they also, as an alliance, reaffirmed their ironclad commitment, says here in the statement, to collective defense. Article 5 of the NATO alliance actually says that an attack on one is an attack on all. And there's been some indication that Trump is, less warm to that idea. In fact, at some point, where's this article I've got? I pulled this one off of CNBC. Phil, did you go to CNBC? I did. But on CNBC, the write-up says Trump had appeared to question NATO's central tenet of collective defense, Article 5, which states that an attack on one member is an attack on all. It says there's numerous definitions of Article 5. You know that, right? I'm committed to being their friends, though. I've become friends with many of those leaders. I'm committed to helping them. But the NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte, he said on Wednesday he trusted the president and that the U.S. was totally committed. And he said, Article 5 is absolutely clear. At the same time, we always have said that we will never go into details on when Article 5 will be triggered. What he was saying was, we're not going to say what it is that triggers it. We're just going to say that an attack on one is still an attack on all. Why is that important? Because if that's not the case, you don't really have an alliance. Let's be honest. If all you have is a loose amalgam of people who see things sort of the same on most issues, that's not an alliance. That's a trade agreement. That's a diplomatic relations. An actual military alliance is when you say, I'm there for you. If they come across the line, I'm there for you. If they launch a strike, I'm there for you. If you need help, I'm there for you. This is a brand new day for NATO. Just being honest. Every nation state, by the way, is going to have to submit what they call required annual plans. The only thing I don't see in here is what happens if they don't. I mean, is there a punitive measure? They have to go stand in the corner. I don't know what happens if they don't submit their required plans on how they're doing on moving towards a 5% GDP. I don't know. But it was said, though, of Trump that he emphasized that America is committed to NATO and expects European allies and Canada to contribute more. And that's exactly what we're going to see them doing, said Rutte. All right, that's a lot, but I want you to know this. Whereas there have been talk about whether NATO was still necessary, I think NATO is still absolutely necessary. Just me talking, I think NATO is absolutely still necessary. Yes, I'm a child of the Cold War, but I think it's beyond that. We may not be in the Cold War as we knew it back in the day, but we are certainly in an era in which the enemy on the horizon has proven their willingness and capability to some degree to be an aggressor and to go and take what they want as opposed to buying or negotiating for it. So yeah, NATO still very viable. When I come back, I'll give you a little bit more on this and kind of wrap it up. Text me what you think, 833-687-4448. And I'm curious, anybody out there served in NATO headquarters or served in a NATO capacity Cold War era? I'd love to hear it. 833-687-4448. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. conservative and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a thankful Thursday. Thankful Thursday, because we are indeed thankful. I tell you what, you know what? I'm so thankful. I want to hear the thankful soundtrack again. Just hit me some thankful.
You got to be more thankful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
We thank you so much for this bountiful harvest of Domino's, KFC, and the always delicious Taco Bell.
Have you said thank you once?
Thank you.
Thank you. You know what? By the way, I'm also very thankful for something. Today, I am every day, but today I will announce that I am more than thankful for my sweet wife, Charlene. Today is her birthday. I feel that I need to go ahead and take advantage of the fact that I actually own a microphone and I can tell the entire world today is the lovely Charlene's birthday. And it's a heck of a thing at my age, who married to a 29-year-old. I am digging it. I am digging it.
I could have gotten a happy birthday, Charlene sound effect to play. I forgot. I should have got one.
We'll say the thankful sound effect was hers.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, it was her idea to do Thankful Thursday, wasn't it? I believe
it may have been.
Yeah, I think it actually was her idea.
Okay, that was for you, babe. Yep. My trophy wife. She's going to kick me later for doing all that. Anyway, love you, honey. Happy birthday. And I look forward to taking you to dinner later tonight. All right. So I got to tell you guys one other thing before I'm going to get into a little bit of business here before we move forward. So most of y'all know that we have a website, rightsidemedia.org, because Rightside Radio is only one production of the overall company's efforts. Rightside Media is the name of the company. Rightsidemedia.org is the website. And on rightsidemedia.org, we got merchandise. So next week's 4th of July, I got to thinking, heck of a thing. What are we going to do about this? We had a staff meeting this morning. I believe it was Butters who actually brought it up. We need to put a promo code out there because we're celebrating the 4th of July. So in a collaborative effort, we have, as of today, established a promo code for buying merch on the rightsidemedia.org merch store. Not the least of which are our flag t-shirts. Are you putting them up right now? Thank you very much. JP, for those of you who are streaming, is putting up a picture of the online stuff in the merch store to include our History of the American Flag t-shirts. But yeah, these are great t-shirts, by the way. They are the super comfy kind. And you just go there right now. Here's the promo code. You ready? Only the people on the radio right now are hearing this for the first time. Liberty. That's it. Next week's 4th of July. So the promo code Liberty gets you 10% off all the merchandise on the store. So you check it out. Now, Butters told me something. Butters, what did you do about those cork bottom mugs? You said that we can also get, like, they can get if they buy a shirt, they get a discount on the mug too.
Yeah, you go in and add a shirt in any of the shirts that are on there. Doesn't have to be the American flag shirt, but you throw a shirt in there and you're going to get a little extra discount on a cork bottom mug.
Well, hang on. Now you're just giving away stuff.
Well, you know.
So, I'm just kidding. So, all right. So they buy a shirt at a 10% discount already. Then they get an additional discount on a cork bottom mug if they want it. By the way, these cork bottom mugs are cool. They're very cool. They got by the way, that Rightside Media logo on there is engraved in the cup. It's not just, okay. Anyway, all that to say, shameless plug, the rightsidemedia.org store is up. Promo code for the next few days. Actually, it's going to be run through next week, right? Through 4th of July.
That's the plan. I've got it set through 4th of July.
Through 4th of July weekend. We got a brand new shipment of those bin shot glasses too, though.
Oh yeah.
bin shot glasses that have the 308 round embedded in the side of the glass with the Rightside Media logo that says Bulletproof Influence on it. A brand new shipment of those just came in just in time for the promo code Liberty. So type in Liberty, 10% discount. If you buy a shirt, you can get a discount mug.
I wonder if we can get a bunker buster put inside of one of those glasses.
Oh, see, now this is getting big. I'm thinking right now we need a bunker buster something. We need a bunker buster t-shirt. Just call it the mother of all t-shirts. The Moat. The mother of all t-shirts. I'm taking it.
Only available in 4X.
All right. Yeah, that would be a bunker buster t-shirt, man. That'd be awesome. All right, let me wrap up this NATO thing. So NATO commitments to spending, commitments to each other, commitments to the idea of NATO. There's no talk right now, although I will say this, Zelensky was there. Ukraine is not a NATO member. They're not.
And he was wearing a suit.
He was wearing a suit. Kind of had the mafia thing going on. When he wear like a black suit
it was
and
all
a black tie.
Yeah, it was all black. Yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of had I kind of had the hitman thing going on. But yeah, Zelensky was there. Ukraine is not a member of NATO right now. Likely won't be. That would just inflame everything going on with Ukraine, with Ukraine and Russia. There are some who, if you are I don't want to say a Russian apologist, but if you are looking at why Russia believes they had to invade Ukraine, then the argument will be, well, they were worried about having NATO on their doorstep. NATO was already on their doorstep. The Baltic states are already on their doorstep. They just didn't want to see Ukraine get further away from them in terms of alliances. So they chose to invade. Ukraine is not going to be a member of NATO. If it happens, I'll be surprised. But right now, I will say this, they are not a member of NATO, but they are in what I would say is a friendly position with NATO because all of NATO is lined up against Russia. That being said, Zelensky was there. Now, one more thing I will point out. It's almost like laughable. Where'd it go? Hang on a second. I got a story missing. It was in my hands. I don't know where it went, but apparently it's very important that Antony Blinken, who? Antony Blinken. What? Antony Blinken. Do you remember him? Who is that guy? Was he the mortician that worked for the Biden administration? I think he was.
One of the worst Secretary of States we've ever had.
Awful. Absolutely awful. JP, I'd like for you to think back now. What was the accomplishment that you look back on and say, oh, Antony Blinken can put that on his resume going forward?
I will say there was that one time he went to Kiev to, do something. I don't know, have talks of some sort. And while he's back home saying how, trying to fight to give Ukraine every last penny of ours, he goes to a Kiev bar and plays guitar at the night.
I saw that.
At the night bars. Oh, you're really sending a great message about how dangerous, Kiev is right now and all that. It's
which I got to say, almost felt out of character too. Not only did it feel like unprofessional, why'd you do that? What's the point? I also look at it and go, aren't you the mortician who never smiles and talks in a monotone voice? And there you were jamming on stage with the guitars. Like, is it your alter ego? What's happening right now?
I mean, I don't have a problem if he does that, but like the messaging was like totally out of whack. It was a mess. So yeah.
Well, former Biden Secretary of State Antony Blinken had to come out in the wake of the NATO alliance meeting and make a statement. Oh, good. He wanted to make sure the world understood that he knew things about Iran and, that, hey, that wasn't necessary. These are his words. He says the strike on 3 of Iran. Why was he? Who's talking to him? This is on Fox News, but I don't even know what context he's speaking this in. Anyway, Antony Blinken condemned President Donald Trump's strikes on nuclear facilities in Iran on Tuesday, although he held out hope they had their intended effect. He shouldn't have done that, but as long as he did. That's the quote. You ready? Here's the quote. The strike on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities by the Wait, I got to do it like him. The strike on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities by the United States was unwise and unnecessary. Now that it's done, I very much hope it succeeded. That's his quote. It was in the New York Times. He wrote a guest essay in the New York Times. So basically, them that couldn't get it done still want people to believe they got some mojo. And one of them is Antony Blinken, who is, in JP's own words, the worst Secretary of State ever in the history of the United States. I think it's laughable because what's happening right now is on the world stage, people are reacting to what Trump does. And that's the way it should be. We should be in a world where the United States sort of dictates the manner and means by which foreign policy goes. We should not be dictated to. We're not that nation. And I'm not saying like dictate like dictatorships. What I'm saying is we're the ones providing the dictates. We're the ones saying, here's how it goes. We're the ones setting the tone. We're the ones leading from the front. No more of this Obama, Biden lead from the rear crap. No more of this hiring the mortician to be your Secretary of State, who in a feckless manner whispers into the microphone something unreal like, well, he shouldn't have done that about bombing Iran's facilities, but as long as he did, I hope it succeeded. What that tells me is you knew it needed to be done, but you were too busy shipping them pallets of cash. You feckless buffoon. No more guest essays from Antony Blinken. Don't you ever speak his name on the show again, JP. Just saying.
Gladly.
Okay.
But also, before we go to the break, remind me again who exactly he was talking to with that statement, Blinken.
New York Times.
New York Times. Yeah, with people like Mike Pompeo going over to Ukraine and all. Like, when does the Logan Act come into effect of these former people in office and former Secretary of States?
Influencing foreign
Yeah,
policy.
like.
Hmm.
There's got at some point it's like you're undermining what the president's doing by saying stuff like this.
Point taken. Take me to a break while you're at it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll come back and get some text messages. You guys are some texting machines. Text me what you're thinking. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Promo code Liberty on the merch shop at rightsidemedia.org. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right. Hey, listen, I see that some of y'all are already texting in saying, hey, real quick, remind me of the promo code. And so, yes, indeed, the promo code is Liberty. If you want to buy merchandise at rightside.media.org, rightside.media.org, that would be a promo code of Liberty for a 10% off on everything in the rightside.media.org store. T-shirts, hats, coffee mugs, stickers, and then our bench shot glasses, which, like I said, we just got a new load of those in just like in the last couple of days. Text lines, JR from Rogersville says, Colonel, I was assigned to NATO AWACS 1983-84. Said I was travel restricted while there. As a consequence of that restriction, I was not allowed to go to Berlin since doing so would require going into East Germany. Said I flew a couple of deep look missions. When looking into East Germany, the sky was near empty of aircraft. If one saw a fast mover, it was in all probability a military aircraft. If memory served, he says, there were 3 corridors for air traffic to fly through. The sky over West Germany was full of aircraft. Imagine a TV screen with only one side of the screen working. That's what it looked like when comparing East and West Germany. I so get that. And by the way, we were there we thought we were going to get a chance to go do a little tourism in East Berlin, which actually was kind of a thing. It was like very shepherded, very, very, anyway, it was careful. But my dad had a TS clearance working in the Army. He was assigned to a duty in Great Britain, and they said, nada, you ain't going over there. So that didn't happen. Were you wanting the mic? I'm sorry.
That just sounds a whole lot like my experience doing exercises over South Korea and looking north to North Korea, and it's just
dark.
Just dark.
Yep.
Blank.
Like over there where nothing happens.
Yeah. Hey, communism.
Yeah. Especially isolationist communism. John from Lexington, South Carolina says, on this thankful Thursday, let's give thanks to the mother of all talk shows, local, regional, national, and beyond. Sports 2, War Eagle. Thank you, John. Appreciate you, man. Thank you very much. Mother of all talk shows. There's the Moat. I like it. Thomas Mathen saying, happy birthday, Charlene. Shane from Lacey Springs also saying, happy birthday, Charlene. John from Huntsville saying, Butters gets a 5-point deduction for unnecessary comments about Phil's age. Just so you know. Also, he says, Trump absolutely did the right thing, making sure every country in the NATO alliance is paying their fair share. John from Huntsville. That may be the only time that I've seen conservatives use the term fair share, and I'm okay with it. Just saying. Jack from Huntsville, long text. He goes, on pilots. He says, a few years ago, I had the honor of flying to Guam on a C-17, literally one of only 5 passengers on the flight delivering some equipment. The pilots were young, they were fit, they were straight-backed, serious guys. Frankly, to me, they looked like kids. He said, but it absolutely gave me new confidence in this young generation whose hands we are turning over the reins of this country to. He said, by the way, we also had a pilot trainee who practiced a high-speed, high-altitude tactical landing into Hickam Air Force Base. That was exciting. I'm sure it was. Listen, I sat, was it a C-17 or C-5? I forget. I've flown in all of it, but I remember climbing up in the cockpit and watching an in-flight refuel and seeing how close that tanker was to the cockpit that I was in. And I was like, oh, geez, Pete, I'm going back downstairs where it feels safer.
I'll just say a quick point on that. Remember, those are the dudes that made it happen in the C-17 pilots, those young guys, it's guys like that made it happen in Afghanistan on the debacle of the decisions made on the ground.
Oh yeah.
And all of that was dealt with.
Yeah.
And that's pretty impressive.
Yep. Absolutely. James Owens Crossroads. He says, hey, here's a thought, Phil. Do you realize that Trump is actually cleaning up a lot of mess ups left to us by Jimmy Carter? Yes, I do. He said the Panama Canal, the Iranian mess that resulted with allowing the Ayatollah Khomeini to rule and relinquishing bases in the Philippines. He said, think about how history would have changed if we didn't have Iranian terrorism. He said, of course, Nixon, in retrospect, shouldn't have gone to China. Yeah, all of that. I agree. There's so much. We're still dealing with so much. That's why, I think we're going to be cleaning up the Biden administration for years. My true belief is that Trump is going to retire at the end of this term. He's going to be in his 80s. I suspect he may want some time just to enjoy the beach at Mar-a-Lago. But my sincere hope is that we get a J.D. Vance, or if J.D. doesn't want to do it, that we have somebody like, Marco Rubio or somebody stepping into the fray to carry the mantle forward, because it's going to take a while to clean up everything that Biden just unhinged in that 4 years he had. John N from Huntsville says, Phil, just wondering whether the last blathering from the Ayatollah Khomeini is really him, considering he's the same age as Baghdad Bob, who's not been heard of from over 20 years. Just asking. John, that's a great point. Maybe it's Baghdad Bob who just grew a beard and moved on over. Although that's back at a time when Iraq and Iran were kind of at odds with each other. So maybe he didn't go to safe haven over there. It's all right. Hang on a second. I just had a thought. Maybe John N was saying this too. Is that Ayatollah Khomeini? Could that be an AI generated video? You said the other day that you were like completely. In fact, there was one that spoofed me. That Caitlin Clark video I thought was real, and you said that was not. So what do you think, JP? Is the Ayatollah video, is it real or not real?
I bet on it being real.
Okay. Jerry from Decatur says, I love it when a young lib comes on the scene saying no police and a chicken in every pot, and you can always tell by what they say it's for your destruction, not your prosperity. Sharia law is tailgating New York City as it is in London with its mayor. Who would think? I know. Who would think it? Especially when you consider the fact that this is the nation that was attacked by radical fundamentalists just, 24 years ago. John C. from Madison coming up here on the break, but John C. from Madison says the Soviet Union really isn't gone. Like you said, it's Russia still. What they did is they let it collapse in 91. That way, communist people were able to spread their fingers all over the world because the rest of the world thought it collapsed. Now you have the nations that are embracing Soviet style, and they don't even realize it. Instead of strong-arming nations with threats of violence, now they're free to spread their ideology without suspicion. Interesting point. All right, listen, we got more, and coming up next, it's that time. It's Thankful Thursday. We're going to get around with Butters and Lee, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right.
I gotta get on the radio. But will you bring my stuff out of the car? But I'm here. I drove my ass off to get here by 3:30.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Man, covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This one, goes like from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. All the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, and straight across the line to what we now call, once again, Fort Benning. And oh, by the way, big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. And then all of y'all that live stream the show daily on our various aspects of online streaming, thank you very much. And your podcasters too. This audience is what makes this worthwhile. And we appreciate you more than you can know. I tell you who else appreciates stuff, by the way. The lovely Charlene just texted in and said to thank all of y'all for your birthday wishes for her. Thank you very much for that. All right, listen, this is that time of the week. It's Thankful Thursday. We're halfway through hour number 2. That means I got to go ahead and set aside everything else and bring in a couple of folks who do a whole lot in the background just to make us better at what we do. And so we do a round we like to call Butters and Lee. So let me call the roll. From up yonder in the Huntsville region, we know her as Lee from the Huntsville. Some refer to her as a dynamic diva of diatribes. That would be Lee from Huntsville. Are you there?
I am here.
You are here, and we're glad. It's thankful. We're Thankful Thursday. Thankful Thursday for you. All right. And sitting right here in the studio, silky smooth voice, buttery as it goes, the Butter Man. Hey, man, how are you?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you?
I'm good. We have a quorum. Give me some whoop whoops. All right, you guys, y'all know the deal. First round is me asking you questions. Second round is you asking me questions. So I'll go with this one. First question. Yesterday it was announced that 30 illegal aliens were arrested at one job site in Gulf Shores, Alabama. 30 at one time in Gulf Shores. Apparently, they were also on a public works project because they were all on a project to build the new Gulf Shores High School, meaning that they're there, tax dollars are paying for them being there. That same company, by the way, that had the 30 illegal aliens is the same company that is currently building the brand new Alabama State House for our House and Senate to meet in. My question to you is, what should happen to the companies who take public projects and then hire illegal aliens? What should be done under the law about this? Butters, you first. What are your thoughts?
Well, first, I will say, of all the illegal aliens that I'm worried about in our country and what they're doing, the ones at the job site working and building stuff, not saying it's okay, but they're the least of my worries. Yeah, that kind of stuff, goes on. I don't know. You got to crack down on the companies that are doing it.
What's the crackdown if they're working public? If they're using tax dollars and they're hiring illegals, what should be done about them getting public projects? Should they keep them?
They should not. That ought to be. Aren't there laws? You're the lawyer. Aren't there laws against hiring practices of hiring illegal aliens for any company?
I will tell you there are actually laws.
So it seems like a pretty simple answer is comply with the law. And if you don't comply with the law, then meet the ramifications of it.
Where I think that it may differ. Well, I'll tell you what, I won't do this first. Let me go to Lee first. Lee, 30 illegals in one job site building a public works project. Same company is now building the brand new multi-million-dollar Alabama State House. Your thoughts? What should happen?
Well, all work should immediately be suspended on both locations. And then we need to have a forensic examination of their hiring process, all hiring documents, interviewing all HR staff. And if they committed fraud by allowing these people to work in our country, the contract should be terminated. Any monies that have been paid to them so far should be retrieved, and they should be prosecuted. If we don't start doing draconian measures and fines against people who commit this unlawful act, you will continue to get more, and they will use the same dadgum excuse of, we can't find Americans to do the job. No, you're prioritizing profits over actually paying a wage that Americans will work at. And you're using a permanent underclass of illegal aliens to do your bidding. And I don't want it anymore.
There you go. Well, first of all, outstanding answer. I will tell you both. I helped pass what's known as the Beeson-Hammond Act. Scott Beeson, who sat in the studio here and guest hosted for me a couple of weeks ago, he was one of the chief sponsors of it, but I was a co-sponsor. The Beeson-Hammond Act has provisions that require Alabama employers, and especially, I believe, on government contracts, to do the proper vetting and to make sure that they are using, all the necessary tools of the trade, if you will, to make sure that they're hiring legal citizens, not illegals. 30 on one job site tells me they weren't trying very hard.
Yeah. The other question that comes to my mind is what's different about us versus, say, a country like Qatar or the countries of the Middle East that basically use slave labor, bring guys in and pay very little wages. They're just taking advantage of,
nothing. Nothing.
So I agree with Lee. I mean, you want to really fix this? It isn't the illegal aliens' fault. Not in this circumstance, especially. It's the fault of the employer and the people that's willing to give them money.
What are you saying, Lee?
You get what you incentivize. If you incentivize people to come over and work for a better wage than they're going to get in their own country, but here they're going to come here and they're going to work it and send all the money back like they do. But the point is that every single person, every single company in the state of Alabama should be mandated to use E-Verify, period.
For it. And listen, I mean, E-Verify is not hard. You get a copy of the necessary documents. Like listen, it's not that hard, and people want to make it hard, but it's not. And just go ahead and do it. And by the way, it's the law. And so, and then if you're going to take a multi-million-dollar project, which I'm betting that school was a multi-million-dollar project too. A high school is not a small thing, and it's a pretty big.
Oh, heck yeah, it's multi-million.
Yeah. And so I'm gonna bet that's a multi-million-dollar project in and of itself. And to have 30 on one, in fact, it wasn't just 30. Apparently it got really crazy because when ICE and state officials showed up, there was the roaches began to scatter. And there was a couple of guys jumped in their truck, drove through a fence, took people on a high-speed chase, and then jumped out and ran into the woods.
And I'll say, like I started off with, the sad thing is some of those guys, if there was a good legal process to legally make, they'd be part of the American dream. Like they are a lot of those guys on job sites like that. They're there working their tail off, and there ought to be a better process to actually make them legal and, let them be a part of what is America, in my opinion.
So having family members who have become naturalized citizens, I can tell you that there is a process and it takes time, but you know what? You just have to work the process. And if you're here illegally, well, you can run the American dream on stolen money. You can go ahead and invest in a company with money that you stole, but that's not really the way it's supposed to work. Well, if you come here illegally, you shouldn't get the job. So come here legally, apply for a work visa, work, and then go home. We get that. That's part of what happens in the world, but that's not what happened on this one job site. So yeah, multi-million-dollar project to build, by the way, to the same company building the State House where we actually passed the laws that tell them they can't do it that way.
There is irony there.
Yeah,
that's deep irony.
Yeah, that's the joke. That's them looking at the people of Alabama and laughing at us. They don't care. It's profits over people. But let me and that's like the most socialist thing you will ever hear me say. But Phil, let me add one more thing.
Yeah.
These companies are complicit. You just drive on down to Albertville and look at all those backed up chicken plants. They know these people are illegal. They play a game of round robin with these employees and their fake documents that they know are fake. And they do this to make money. And they do this because they're all complicit. These companies understand what they're doing and they just don't care. If we don't start putting them out of business when they do this, it will still continue.
Okay, we ran along on that one. Let me go back. We have about 3 minutes to do this question right here. So next question. Today, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth just excoriated the media. I mean, he told them they were so focused on trying to prove that Trump had not done enough on Iran's nuclear facilities that they spent all their time denigrating the pilots, basically, by poo-pooing the mission. His point was, if you don't like Trump, that's fine. If you want to see the intel, that's fine. But how about doing a story that actually, sort of lauds our military and talks about what it means to fly 37 hours straight and drop bombs on a pinpoint target? So here's my question for you. should the press have to do stories like that? Not have to. Should the press do stories like that talk about the troops involved, or should they just stick to the policies and the politics and all of that? Butters, you first on this one.
Stay out of the tactics. Tell the story. The pilots, I guess I'm partial because I used to be one of those guys that could have been a part of a strike like that. They did their job. They did what they were told to do, and they did it with excellence. They make movies like Top Gun. But yeah, stick to the tactics. I actually don't really like all the conversation. You need to talk about policies, the politics of things, and leave the tactics and what worked and what didn't work.
But couldn't they do a little bit of a puff piece?
Absolutely.
About the pilots?
I think there's a slippery slope of like highlighting the pilots and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, and there's people going, I didn't realize we could do that. How does that work? So
Lee, real quick, we got about a minute. What do you think?
I think that the Trump derangement syndrome and the left or the Democrats, I repeat myself, and these surrogates in the media hate him more than they love anything else, even our country. They hate him to the point of obsession, and they will never give him an inch. They will never give him a win. If he cured cancer, they would be pro-cancer. I am telling you, none of this matters. They won't give him a good story. I don't care what happens. And they're willing to denigrate pilots, all of those who help them, the American military, everything, because it gets them to their end of insulting Trump. That's all that matters.
That pretty much sounds like you and Pete Hegseth could have shared the podium today. All right, listen, that's round one, Butters and Lee. We come right back, flip the script. This is where they ask me questions, and I just hope I got an answer. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, we're going back to round number 2 with Butters and Lee. This is the round where they ask me questions, and I just kind of hold my breath and hope I have an answer when they ask. So I'm going to Lee first. Ladies first. Lee, what do you got?
So I'm curious as your thoughts, what's going on in New York with this socialist that they're trying to push into office. I mean, it's not a done deal yet, but at some point, do you just have to say, okay, elections have consequences, here you go, and let them fall in on themselves? I mean, he's trying to actually push for any company that does business in New York to have to pay a full New York tax rate, even if they're incorporated somewhere else. Like, he's gone kind of around the bend a little bit. Oh, yeah. And I'm wondering, do you just let them fall in or what?
Well, I mean, yeah, that part of democracy is elections have consequences, and you reap what you sow. So, to some extent, yes, if it works out that that this guy actually gets elected mayor of New York City, then I got news. We're just going to have to watch and hope for the best, and see whether or not Here's one thing. I mean, Bill de Blasio was horrible, but the reality is, I just can't imagine being worse than him. And this guy comes in, he may wind up finding out that when you govern, you really can't do all the things you said you do on the campaign trail, because that won't really work. But at the same time, here's the thing. They got like 130 days. They got 130 days to the election, thereabouts. And my understanding is, even this morning, there's already buyer's remorse, and that there's a rich consortium of businessmen who are like, no. We're putting big money into finding a write-in candidate. We're going to fix this, because they don't want it to go down that road. But I did my whole monologue on this earlier, and I said that watching the liberals do life is like watching the charge of the Light Brigade. They just keep running into the meat grinder, and they don't ever recognize that their leadership is just making all the wrong decisions. They never know when to quit, and it winds up having deadly consequences in the end. So my only hope is that his candidacy is the meat grinder, as opposed to New York City having to become the meat grinder. But yeah, to answer your first question, if they elect him, I got news. They're gonna have to live with it, and there are gonna be people bailing out of that city like left and right. So there you go.
Like rats off a sinking ship.
Rats off a sinking ship. And you know what? And I love New York City. That was like I have very few bucket list items, but one of my bucket lists was a few years ago to take Charlene on a trip to New York City. And we finally had an amazing time. And then the city has cascaded down since then. I wouldn't want to go back right now. And I say that with like a mix of, it's kind of bittersweet to say that. But anyway, we'll wait and watch. But yes, elections have consequences. If they vote him in, they have to own it. Next question, I'm going to the Butterman. Hey, bud, what you got?
So I'm actually going to piggyback onto this topic. Because I think it's worth talking about. So here's something I saw someone post on the internet. Thinking New York City might just be the pattern to lead our democracy out of chaos and confusion to a beacon of hope in the midst of obvious trying political times.
Who said that?
A retired veteran, living in Gadsden, Alabama.
Oh.
And so my piggyback onto this concept is, because my thought has been like, oh my gosh, what are they doing up there in New York? How did that happen? How is that a conversation? And of course, there's follow-on conversation about socialism and all that kind of stuff. But like, we sit here as conservatives going like, how on earth can they be thinking that, them in New York? How would that ever happen in Alabama? What are your thoughts on, like, that's an actual conversation that apparently is like, everybody's clearly not seeing it the same way. But
so you're saying that guy is supportive of the
okay.
I think I know who that is, by the way. Now that I've heard you say that, I think I know who that is. But that being said, look at Randall Woodfin. I mean, the guy is a liberal dolt. The idea that he's the mayor of one of the largest cities in the Southeast, and he's wearing his legalized marijuana T-shirts to city council meetings. I mean, what? On his watch, Birmingham has gone from being the largest city in the state to the third, almost fourth, because it's just draining people. They don't want to be in the downtown region right now. And yet there's cool things there. There's great infrastructure. It's a beautiful city. It's still the magic city in many ways, but inner city Birmingham is falling apart under his watch. So it's possible to have that right here in a red state. Pockets of blue. There are going to be dots of blue, even in a red county like Etowah, where we are right now. There's going to be that kind of commentary. I get it. They have a right to their opinion. And I got news. They're going to watch New York City cascade down if he gets elected the same as everybody else.
It's
Woodfin would love to do the same thing in Birmingham, and he would salivate.
I was sounding kind of low. Say that again, Lee.
Sorry, my voice is shot. I was at a concert last night. I said Woodfin would salivate. He would love to do that in Birmingham. Love it.
He would absolutely love it. And then Stephen Reed, mayor of Montgomery, ain't much better. And so it's here. And you look at the South, you go, it's the South. We're conservative. You've seen Atlanta? I mean, yeah. So there are going to be pockets of it everywhere you look. But I still think, though, if you look at the map of the United States, the reds versus blues, there are far more red territories in the United States. The problem is these major metropolitan areas become the mass of the weight of the vote. And I can't tell you how many guys I served with who were like from upstate New York that just wish New York City would break off and become its own country.
Is it possible at this point to really have a conversation to change those? I mean, like to change their minds, to help them realize and understand? Because sadly, we sit here and say, "Oh, they're going to learn their lesson," but they're not. They're not. They're going to have some other excuse.
And they always will. You know what? There will always be left and right in politics. Truth be told, our job is just to keep carrying the torch and do what we got to do. And right now, there's more of us than there are them. All right, Lee, we love you. I'll see you Saturday. And oh, by the way, Butters and Lee every Thursday. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. just said. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 on a thankful Thursday. I am thankful for all of you. So I'll get some text messages here in a moment, but I gotta just remind you guys that the rightsidemedia.org website has our shop on it, our merchandise store. T-shirts, hats, stickers, coffee mugs, and our bench shot glasses that say bulletproof influence with a embedded 308 round in the side of the glass, custom made for us by the bench shot company. All that's on our merch store, and we just got a brand new promo code. Next week being the 4th of July, the promo code Liberty, one word, Liberty. Liberty gets you 10% off of everything. And Butters is right here in studio. He set it all up, and he also just went ahead and freelanced some extra goodies in there. You got the thing about the court bottom mugs, right?
I'm just trying to hook them up. Just trying to hook them up. Yeah.
Butters is giving stuff away now.
You throw a shirt in there, you're going to get a little extra Benny discount on the cork bottom mugs.
Yeah, those cork bottom mugs are very cool, by the way. They have the Rightside Media logo engraved in the side of the cup, the permanent cork coaster on the bottom of it. It's also got a lid so you can travel with it. Anyway,
they're nice. They're nice.
They are nice. And JP's putting it up on the live stream right now. Thank you, JP. JP, I'm thankful for you.
I'm thankful for you, and thankful you're thankful for me.
I'm thankful that you're thankful that I'm thankful for you.
Okay. While I have a microphone on, did I hear?
Oh,
are you doing something with up in Huntsville this weekend? Did I hear?
Oh, so the Moms for Liberty, Emily Jones, our very own Emily Jones, and Lee from Huntsville, have a Moms for Liberty event this weekend. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, is the speaker. It is the annual fundraiser. Last year was it last year? Last year was Riley Gaines. This year, Marjorie Taylor Greene is to, and they're huge. Moms for Liberty is big on all kinds of liberty related issues, but they're huge right now on the Title IX issue and protecting women's sports. But yeah, that's this weekend, and I plan to be there. And I have agreed to give away some Rightside merch at the event. So there will be a basket of Rightside merch. I'm just giving stuff away. Just who wants something? Just giving stuff away.
Have you turned socialist? Do you need to run for mayor of New York now?
This is a private sector giveaway. That is not socialist. Several text messages. Let me get those real quick. Clint from Tony, Alabama. If I get my mouse to work, Clint from Tony, Alabama says, Phil, I know that Biden was the man carrying the POTUS title, but we all know he is not the one that did the damage that was inflicted on our great nation. I fervently hope and pray that those who really made the decisions are held to account one day soon. I do too, Clint. I'm totally with you on that. They've been having hearings on this. I really want to know what his doctor is going to do. I'm pretty sure his doctor is not going to agree to test. His doctor was being called in to testify. But, HIPAA laws being what they are, I don't think he's going to have to actually divulge what he knows. But I'm sure they have ways of asking the questions. We'll find out. But yes, heads need to roll. And there was a very interesting, in the hearing yesterday, Neera Tanden, who was one of the senior advisors to Joe Biden, she admitted she doesn't even know who all authorized the use of the auto pen and that she often was the one who used it herself. So that's amazing. More to come on that one. Barry from Huntsville says, that project being done by the retirement system of Alabama, the RSA needs to be called to task. Okay, so what Barry's talking about is earlier I mentioned that yesterday, 30 illegal aliens arrested on one job site down in Gulf Shores, building Gulf Shores High School. The same company that had 30 illegal aliens on one public works job site being paid for with tax dollars is also the same company building the new State House, which, by the way, I'm glad we're getting a new State House. It's overdue. It's another story. But the new State House being built for the Alabama House and Senate to meet in is being built by the same company that has the 30 illegal aliens on the one job site down there. All right. So, Barry, to your point, yes, RSA is the one financing the building of the building. They are not the ones building the building. The Rayburn Contracting Company is the one that is building it. Rayburn Construction is the one that needs to answer the mail on this. I don't think RSA is necessarily at fault, but RSA is going to now have to deal with a company that may not have been doing E-Verify and what it takes to make sure they don't have illegals. Penny from Athens says Lee is spot on about the chicken plants playing the game around robin with illegals. They can allow them to work while waiting for verification of legal status. Lee is also spot on about TDS. The leftist media simply will not give them a win no matter what the Trump administration does, period. True that. Thank you, Penny from Athens. Jack from Huntsville. States and cities are the laboratory of democracy. Smart people can learn from others' mistakes. Very succinct and to the point. And I do believe what he's talking about. You about to come in? I believe what he's talking about there is the New York City election. States and cities are the laboratories of democracy. Yes, they are. Tammy from Huntsville says the problem is they destroy their city, then they move to our towns and destroy ours. They also count the votes. Okay. Let's don't let it happen. John from Harvest has a quote from Thomas Sowell, which is, I don't care what it is. If Thomas Sowell said it, it's going to be good. It says, the strongest argument for socialism is that it sounds good. The strongest argument against socialism is that it doesn't work. But those who live by words will always have a soft spot in their hearts for socialism because it sounds so good. That's pretty legit. John from Huntsville checking in saying Lee did a spectacular job. Does anybody know what concert Lee went to? I don't. Do you?
I do not.
I don't either. What concert was in Huntsville last night? One that she would shout at.
I don't know, but I can do some investigating.
Do some investigating. See what you can find out. Then we'll text her and see if we were right. Mr. Hill from Pumpkin Center. I love the fact that we have a Pumpkin Center, by the way. Pumpkin Center, Alabama. Pumpkin Center. Said it was so hot yesterday. I asked my wife, okay, never mind. He says, I got to read it first and check and make sure I'm reading. Okay. He says, it was so hot yesterday. I asked my wife for a little loving just so I get a cold shoulder. That's awful. Mr. Hill, Pumpkin Center. Give him a laugh track on that. He deserves it. Or maybe a womp womp or something. You gave him both. We got laughter and a womp womp. Okay. JP's earning points back from John. Wait, who lost the points earlier? Butters lost the points earlier. That's right, because he commented on my age. Thank you very much. John C. from Madison says, if a company has multiple violations, that company should no longer be in business. If they only have 2 or 3 illegals working, I think it's a mistake. But when you have over 30 working at one job site and taxpayers are paying for it, that's outright fraud. John C., I agree with you. It's ain't no way to explain around that one. It just is. Did you find a concert last night? Are we going to guess?
I'm still looking.
Last night in Huntsville. Now we're assuming Huntsville. Text Lee and find out where she was. She's on that text line we were on a little while ago, Butters. Go ahead and text her and see where she was last night. Now we're curious. The whole world wants to know. Tell her that John won't give out the grades till he knows where she was last night. It's going to be important. I feel certain that our audience is not going to rest until they know. All right, coming up next, we're going to take a dive into another topic, the big self-own. You know, I said earlier in the show, if you heard my monologue, liberals have a tendency to overreach at every turn. They never know when to quit. And they also, oh, by the way, are their own worst enemies. Why? Because most of what they do is not defensible. Most of what they do is surface only, and they cannot defend it past the point of their occasional words. So, okay, what does that mean? Well, it means they self-own themselves on a regular basis, like face planting, like stepping on the rake. Liberals do it daily. Well, I got multiple examples. And we'll take a break right now. We'll come right back and I'll tell you all about it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. Hey, I see that some folks are already on the merchandise store. Butters was checking it out a minute ago, and I see that orders are already going out. So thank you very much. And listen, don't forget, promo code Liberty. When you're checking out, there's a place for a promo code. Punch in the word Liberty, 10% discount on all our stuff. We're doing that in honor of the fact that next week is 4th of July. I'm looking at a couple of texts, and we got a brand spanking new texter. You see that? Jeff from Tony, Alabama. He said there was a Def Leppard concert in Birmingham. Def Leppard was playing in Birmingham? Really?
Evidently.
They're still alive?
Yeah, I wish I could have been there for that. Didn't know that.
Okay, what is unique? I'm asking my younger generation right here, because Def Leppard, literally, to me, high school is my 68 Mustang with a Kraco 40-watt power booster on my stereo, cranking up either A, Def Leppard, B, Journey, or C, Boston. So that's where I was at all the time. JP, trivia question. What is unique about the band Def Leppard?
Is Def Leppard the one with a one-arm drummer?
One-arm drummer.
Yeah.
That's it. Absolutely.
So yeah, my dad raised me right.
Well, I know you're dead.
Yeah.
I know that to be true. Matthew from Washington. Oh, by the way, we did find out where she was. Butters sleuthed it out and got the word from. So where indeed did Lee from Huntsville lose her voice last night?
Dave Matthews Band.
Dave Matthews Band.
I can see that. Props.
Where were they playing?
Alpharetta.
So she toted her way on over to Georgia, and screamed and did the groupie thing for Dave Matthews Band last night.
Probably worth it.
Wow, that's cool. I like Dave Matthews.
By the way, we had a YouTube comment says that he was at the Dave Matthews Band in Birmingham on Tuesday night. Said it was pretty brutal, but the music was great. So we got 2 Dave Matthews Band goers today.
Man, I used to do concerts a lot, and I just hardly ever do them now. Although I will say this, the guys from Chicago could still play like you would not believe. Chicago, dating back to the late 60s, early 70s. I mean, they still rock it when they have a concert. One of the best I've ever seen. Charlotte and I have probably seen them 3 times.
I did go to the Styx Foreigner for farewell tour concert at the Orion, which was pretty fun. Yeah.
What year was that?
This past year, they did their farewell tour.
Styx and Foreigner?
So Foreigner is pretty much like a cover band now. There's no original members.
Yeah.
So it was their farewell tour. However, a bunch of the original Styx members were still in the band, including the lead singer and the guitarist. So it was pretty cool.
Wow. Okay. Now that I'm reminiscing. So I did see the original Van Halen in Birmingham in 1981. I was deaf for a week, but that was quite the concert. I'll also tell you that probably the most fun I ever had at a concert was Huey Lewis and the News. They were And I saw them right as they were getting big. And I've never seen a band look and act like they were just having a good time on stages. But I mean, they looked like they loved their life and could not believe they got paid to do what they were doing. Huey Lewis and the News. If that's not the 80s, I don't know what is.
So, have you heard of Huey Lewis and the News?
Of course, I've heard of Huey Lewis and the News.
Never heard of it.
You've never heard of it? You've watched Back to the Future, haven't you?
Yeah.
Every song in Back to the Future is Huey Lewis and the News.
I'm sure I've heard their songs, but I did not know them by name.
Okay, I'm gonna build you a sound list. I mean, a song list, and you have to listen to them while you jog tonight.
It's called a playlist. But
it's a song list. That's still the same thing.
You want to feel old? Mention Back to the Future. If that were made today, they'd be going back to 1995.
I don't enjoy your company sometimes.
I'll just say
that's just wrong that you would do that to me.
My wife wasn't super happy when I pointed that out because I saw that on social media the other day. I'm like, ooh, yikes.
Golly,
that burns a little.
That's crazy. Huey Lewis and the News. You got to check them out, man.
I'm sure
it's hip to be square. You would like the fact that their biggest album was called Sports.
It was called Sports.
Sports.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. All the soundtrack to the Huey Lewis even made a cameo appearance in the first Back to the Future movie. Little known fact, but he did.
Interesting. That's Huey Lewis in the News, like Hootie and the Blowfish, just kind of along the same lines there, name wise. But yeah, I've never heard of Huey, unfortunately.
Well, Hootie's a bit
sad
newer
for you right now.
It is newer, yeah.
And Darius Rucker's still out there.
He is, yeah.
And so is Huey Lewis, but he's a little old. Anyway, all that to say, yeah, great concert also too. As long as you're talking about double features a while ago, I saw in the waning days of their careers, I saw a double feature of Kansas and Heart.
Oh, that's a good combo.
And that was a good combo. That was an excellent combo, and that was in Huntsville.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, one last. I would love to see Roger Waters, because Pink Floyd's my favorite band, but I don't want to get yelled at about how Trump sucks and anti-Semitism comments from Roger. I choose not to go see it.
That's one of those disappointing things. I used to be a Springsteen fan. I don't care if somebody has political views different than mine. But there's some of them that get so far afield that I almost can't do Bruce Springsteen anymore.
Roger Waters had a pig floaty with Trump's face on it floating around during the band.
Did he really?
During the concert, yes. So that's unfortunate.
I mean, come on. Mike from Coxie, Alabama says, I'm still worried about JP. I think it's time for an intervention.
I'm 22 years old. Okay. I'm doing the best I can.
Listen, the man he does like Pink Floyd. So
yeah. Pink Floyd, Boston, Def Leppard,
oh yeah.
Yeah. Guns N' Roses.
A little pyromania from Def Leppard.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's better to burn out than to fade away.
I mean,
right?
my walk-up song in baseball.
I love that line.
My walk-up song for high school baseball was Guns N' Roses. So like I know my old bands.
What song from Guns N' Roses?
The November Rain guitar solo at the beginning of it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
That was your warm-up song?
My walk-up song junior year. But then senior year.
Oh, your walk-up song.
Yeah. And then senior year, it was the Stone Cold Steve Austin intro song. So,
yeah, pyrotechnics going off when you walked
with
out.
the glass break. Yeah.
We are so chasing a rabbit right now. And I realize I got a break in like a minute and a half, so I shouldn't even start a segment right now.
Did you have walk-up music when you were in high school?
Walk-up music was not a thing. Back then we were playing 8 tracks, so you couldn't have a walk, anyway. By the way, Tom with all the kids is getting, I think he's poking right now. I think he's messing with me. Tom with all the kids, I mentioned getting you a song list. You said, no, it's a playlist. He said, make him a mixtape. That's my era. Make him a mixtape. I made many a mixtape. And by the way, I called them magnum opus tapes because magnum opus being Latin for a great masterpiece, I put together my favorite songs. Do you even know what an 8-track is?
I mean, I've heard of it. I've never seen it before.
Picture something about the size of this coffee mug that you chunk into a big, huge slot, and it has 4 tracks, which is really 8 tracks. And if you want to hear a song, you get to where you time it out. You're in track number 1. There's 4 songs in track 1. But if you're halfway through the 3rd song and you hit the button, you'll get the song you really want in track 2.
That's so tacky. See, what I do is I go to Spotify and I turn on my wireless headphones and then I just press play.
You're just trying now. You're just trying to poke right now.
It is amazing. We worry about texting and driving and all of the concerns today of all the distractions, but driving a stick shift with a glass of sweet tea and a cheeseburger and a big deck of CDs or tapes and swapping all that out and like it. it is kind of amazing.
They got those Call of Duty people got nothing on us. My generation had more in our hands while we drove, and oh, by the way, didn't have a shoulder belt either while we did it, and no airbags. Thank you. And my radio didn't ask me if I really wanted to hear the song or not. Phil Williams, old Rightside Radio. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Man, covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This show, goes like from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. All the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we now call, once again, Fort Benning, and then big old patches. North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio audience. That's just all y'all listening on radio. Then there's all you guys out there in the big wide world, going to the World Wide Web, watching us daily on the live stream on places like Rumble, YouTube, X, Facebook, and oh yes, our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then there's y'all on podcast. And a ton of people that download the show after the fact and podcast it. Anyway, the bottom line is this. I am thankful for all of you. We all are. What we do right now would not even matter if you guys weren't out there. So we love this audience. We appreciate you. And we know that you guys are right side ruffians, and you're part of what makes this all work. So thank you very much. Hey, I got a couple of, okay. So that little mini moment we had there trying to help, JP with quality music that needs to be on his mixtape.
My mixtape.
Your mixtape, man. Matt from Madison says, Phil, we've been through 45s, albums, transistor radios, 8-tracks, cassettes, and CDs. Yes, we have. All of it. I have. I thought I was cool, man. Listen, hey, Christmas one year, I got an AM transistor radio that was on a wristband that I could listen to while I walked around.
Wow.
I just
that's some next level right
brace yourselves, because that's wow. John from Harvest said, I remember having to record songs off the radio onto cassette tapes. Yes, there were some of us who were really good at that too. There's always that scratchy moment though, where you moved something and you could hear it in the background, or maybe somebody walked through the room and made a noise. Mike from Florence says, before I was familiar with them, I used to hear on the local radio station, up next, Huey Lewis in the news. And it ticked me off that the news did not come on next. Okay. Wow. He said also Def Leppard earned the top spot for me in terms of respect after they made sure their drummer continued to be their drummer. Yeah, that is a great story, by the way. I saw a movie about that, or maybe it was Inside the Music kind of thing. When Def Leppard's drummer, when they first made it big, his dream had been to own a red Corvette. True story. He owned a red Corvette, and then driving on a small kind of a rural country road with his girlfriend in the red Corvette, somebody ran him off the road. I think they were challenging him or something, and they ran him off the road. Had a massive accident. He was I can't recall if it killed his girlfriend or not. I don't recall, but he was found standing in the field with one arm missing, just standing there in shock. And anyway, he went through all kinds of stuff in the hospital. Of course, there was no way the amputation was done. There's no restoration there. The band had just begun to make it big. And he decided, guys, don't bail on me yet. I think I got a plan. And he put together, I think what it was he read an article about a pilot who had maintained his ability to fly by having the controls restructured to be mostly pedals. And he said, I'm doing that. And so he actually had all this work done to tool up a drum set where the pedals did more than any other drum set would do. And he had to coordinate what he could do with one arm and a whole lot with his feet. And at first it was a struggle, but you can imagine. But the band one day said, okay, almost like obligatory. All right, listen, we're fine. Yeah, Manny, we love you. All right, sure. We'll hear what you got. And they were like, this is going to work. We're keeping the band.
Wow.
So they kept him. One-arm drummer.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. Jason from Meridianville says, I was at Huey Lewis in the News, and they did put on a great show. Did you go to the one at UAH in Huntsville in 1983 or 4? That's the one I went to. Great concert. Dave from Capshaw said, that's Dead Leopard. I said, are they still around? He said, no, that'd be Dead Leopard. That's awful. That's awful. That's a womp womp. All right, listen, I'm going to do I got to do a round here. So I got a dipper. I'm calling it the Big Self Own. There is a thing right now out there. It seems like the liberals are in some kind of competition with themselves to see who can say the craziest stuff. And I don't mean like a little bit. I mean like a lot. It's a constant series of, wow, did they? No, they didn't say. Did he really? Did he say that? He did. Okay, I tell you what, I was going to do this second, but I'll bring it up first. Who decides to put Jamal Bowman on anything? How does he get out there? How does he maintain any sense of credibility? Why does he even show his face? Jamal Bowman, you may remember him, the black activist who got elected to Congress, was the male member of the squad. He was a token male in the squad. They let him be in. Token male in the squad, and he's the guy that pulled the fire alarm in the Capitol building trying to prevent Republicans from going to the vote on a major bill. Anyway, he's one of the few who he was so bad that his district said, we're done with you, and they got somebody else. But Jamal Bowman was on CNN last night, and he was talking about Zohran Mamdani, the Democrat nominee for mayor in New York City. And then he went on a racist rant. Kid you not. He went down the run. He was doing everything about sexism towards women, homophobia, and then he got into racism. And he said this is his quote. He said, I'm a black man in America. And the reason why heart disease and cancer and obesity and diabetes are bigger in the black community is because of the stress we carry from having to deal with being called the N-word directly or indirectly every day. That's what he said with a overly straight face. Like he meant it. Basically, he says, and by the way, I don't believe that he's been called the N-word every day of his life. I don't.
But he fears of being called it every day of his life. That's the point, you know.
Okay, so he lives in the stress of whether he would be called.
Because white people are evil, so.
Yeah, and that's why there's heart disease and cancer and obesity and diabetes in the black community, he said, because of the stress from he says from having to deal with being called the N-word. Oh. Not the fear of it, but being called the N-word every day. Has he listened to any gangster rap lately? I mean, so just saying. No,
you got a valid point. Yeah, absolutely.
They use the word more than anybody else. They use it more than any white racist does. But that's the kind of thing, the self-owns that they have. Here's some examples. I got a list of them. You ready? I do. I have a list. I hold in my calloused former paratrooper hands. Like, for instance, the left is angry right now, by the way. They are. The left is angry. They realize they are gaining nothing. Their polling is in the tank. As a party, their polling's in the tank. And it's very hard for anybody in the leadership to ever consider themselves moderate because they're just not. And the party's base is controlling the narrative. And the base is like all on the transgenderism train, open borders, fighting the enforcement of immigration laws, soft on crime policies. And they're angry. And they're all about diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're still mad that went away. And they're doing everything they can to make sure that minors can have surgeries that change their gender. And then you got people like Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar from Somalia, somehow is a member of Congress. She recently said that the United States is basically worse than Somalia. Have you seen Somalia recently? And I would have to ask the question, then why did you immigrate here from Somalia? If it's that great, why didn't you stay there? And for that matter, can we send you back? That'd be awesome. What about Whoopi Goldberg? Oh, geez, Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg, by the way, who's a multimillionaire, who gets paid probably millions a year to sit there and sound off on The View. Whoopi Goldberg said just the other day that black people have it worse here in the United States than they would in Iran. Has she been to Iran lately? What's her measuring stick here? Does she understand that Iran is the place where women are beaten in the streets for not wearing their hijabs correctly? I don't think she does. Then there's Jasmine Crockett, the gift that keeps giving. Like every single Republican who runs for dog catcher should run a Jasmine Crockett soundbite just to show what they're up against. Jasmine Crockett just recently went off talking about on the last election that half the people in the United States are apparently mentally ill. This is the basket of deplorables coming back. This is that. And then there's I can go down the list, but the bottom line is the number of self-owns is incredible. Joe Rogan the other day. Joe Rogan had Bernie Sanders on. Now, I will say this. I'll give props to Bernie for going on, because if you've ever watched any of Joe Rogan's stuff, Joe Rogan is not unprepared for his discussions. The guy is sharp as a tack, but you also always get the feeling that he is well-read and prepared for the next interview. And not like in a, I have notes, let me do Barbara Walters kind of thing with you. Just more along the lines of, hey, I'm conversational. No, don't try that on me. I know what it says. It says this. And that's Joe Rogan. And he comes at it from a way that you're not sure where he's going. And all of a sudden, gazing, it's like one of his roundhouse kicks from when he was in the ring. Well, Bernie Sanders went on, and again, props to Bernie, but Bernie tried to go down the Green New Deal route, right? Bernie tried to go down the climate change is not a hoax route. And Rogan was having none of it. Rogan confronted him with actual science. He confronted him by saying, the reality is the Earth's temperature has never been static, right? He says, we can both agree on that, can't we? It's always been up and down. There's been ice ages and heat waves. And then he says, the Washington Post looked at it and they found out that we're actually in a cooling period, but you're talking about heat. And Rogan then went on to actually bring up the Washington Post article that directly contradicted the things that Sanders was saying to him in the interview. To which Sanders goes, well, I mean, I don't know. I haven't read that article yet. And Rogan said, yeah, it's like a very inconvenient discovery, huh? They had to report the data, and kudos to them for actually doing that. And Sanders goes, well, I didn't read the article, but, you know, the scientists that are out there. No. I know, Rogan said, there's a lot of money involved in that too, Bernie. That's part of the problem. There's a lot of money in this, the whole climate change thing, at which point Sanders wanted to pivot and change the subject.
Well, the thing is, Bernie was not going into a hostile environment by any means. Joe Rogan openly supported and voted for Bernie in 2020. So, like,
that's a good point.
Like, he was not going into the hostile environment at all. But one of Joe Rogan's famous quotes when doing his podcast is, "You can't lie for 3 hours straight. Like, eventually, the truth is going to come out when he talks to people and has conversations."
Nice.
And I just saw a lot of moments where Bernie kind of stepped in it when he was not being like somebody who voted for him. So, yeah, it's.
I think too. I think I don't know if we could count Joe Rogan as a conservative.
No,
but I don't think he's where he was in 2020 either. I think he's definitely moved to the center at the very least.
From politics to also being atheist to going to church regularly now, apparently.
Does he really?
Yeah. He's changing his views on a lot of things.
Is it a real church? They have God and everything?
Oh, yeah. He's talked about it. And he's had a lot of Christians on, like Christian apologists on. So he's a genuinely curious and interesting guy. So he's not like avowed anything. So,
yeah. Well, don't anybody go on a show thinking you're going to get away with something. Trump went on for 3+ hours, which went pretty well.
Yeah. Helped them win the election, I think.
I think it did. And it was also very engaging. And Rogan didn't hold back either.
No, he asked him truthful questions, and when Trump started to do his little weave and avoid, Joe said, "Let's come back." So yeah.
Self-owns. That's where I am right now. Liberal self-owns. Here's another self-owned Representative LaMonica McIver. Remember her? Representative LaMonica McIver, Democrat from New Jersey, thought it'd be a great idea to go protest ICE right outside the ICE detention facility in Newark. And then she thought it'd be an even better idea to get in the face and scream expletives at police officers. And then she thought it'd be a really good idea to put her elbow in the back of the head of one of the police officers. She just got indicted. So you talk about owning yourself. Every bit of that's a self-inflicted wound. She was just indicted. Story here on Fox News. Yesterday, she pled not guilty. I'm pretty sure there's a video. Might be time for a plea deal. Just saying. I don't know how far this is going to go, but I do know this. That is absolutely a self-owned, because none of that had to happen. You're a member of Congress, for crying out loud. There is no reason why we should not have a higher standard of expectation of a member of Congress. That's only reasonable. You're not part of the raggedy pieces of society that have no abilities or educations, and you're living on the streets and doing things that no one would ever do in common decent society. No, you're a member of freaking Congress. You just had to go ahead and try to plead not guilty to that thing that we can see you doing on video. All that to say, I got a bunch of stuff. We'll do a few more cell phones after the break, but yeah, wow. Every single day, the Democrat liberal base is the gift that keeps on giving. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. I'll go over the text lines here momentarily. If you want to text in your thoughts, text them 833-687-4448. I got to tell you one more self-own. I got a stack of them here, but I'll just go with one more. So the libs have a tendency to self-own themselves. Like, oh, this will be a neat idea. Everyone will love it. And then it's a fad for like about a hot minute. And the next thing you know, everybody realizes that's ridiculous. That's not going to work. That's jacked up. I like, for instance, I'll be honest with you. I think that I think transgenderism is a fad. I do. It's a sick fad, but I think it's a fad. I think transgenderism became like the cause celeb of the day. Oh, how special. Someone is finding their true self and they're getting it, altered. And no, it's awful. It's absolutely, it's self-mutilation. And I think it's finally it's lost its shine. And I'm glad. Now, there will always be some out there that will go down that road, unfortunately, but let's stop forcing it on minors and making it part of the education of our children and yada, yada. That being said, there are other cell phones. There's a lot of cell phones. We just earlier talked about the guy who's like a full-bore socialist, Zohran Mamdani, just got elected as the Democrat nominee to be the mayor of New York City. Keep in mind, New York City has a $112 billion annual budget. New York City, if it were a nation unto itself, would have the 12th largest national economy in the world. Their budget annually is bigger than almost all of the United States, the states themselves. Like, I think Texas and Florida and California have a bigger state budget than New York City's municipal budget. That being said, Zohran Mamdani is so incredibly liberal that he wants to spend 65 million taxpayer dollars to promote transgenderism for children. He wants to pave over golf courses in order to make affordable housing areas. He wants to socialize grocery stores so that the government will set the prices on milk and bread. He wants to defund the police in New York City. That's awesome. You just run down the list, and the litany of things that he has confessed to wanting to do or be a part of as mayor is everything we should worry about. Well, guess what? The cell phone already begins. The cell phone is proving itself out, as redstate.com has a piece saying that a New York real estate broker said that they began to be flooded with calls immediately after the results of the election were in, with people canceling the purchase of homes inside New York City. Go figure. He said the fateful words were these, that it would have been better if Cuomo had won. Oh my gosh, the very idea that you could say that. So right now what we're looking at is the big cell phone is within minutes of Zohran Mamdani clinching the Democrat nomination for mayor. Real estate agents said they were flooded with calls from clients looking to walk away from deals to buy apartments in New York City. High-end buyers, they said, are now looking to purchase property outside the city. My number one job, he said, is going to be moving people from New York to Florida again, this real estate agent said. Based on the results, clients are going to hold off making any kind of investment in New York City. I guarantee you that's true. They're all going to wait now until they know for a fact what's going to happen with the mayoral elections. Amazing self-own. John from Huntsville has the grades in. He says Butters and JP both get a B+ for their just okay performances. That means today's co-winners are obviously the magnificent Phil Williams and the incredible Lee from Huntsville. Well, hey, with a perfect A++ because Phil remembered his wife's birthday and Lee went to a Dave Matthews Band concert. Congratulations. And JP says, I got to know if you've ever heard of my favorite band called Three Doors Down. That's my favorite. That's one of my favorite bands. I love Three Doors Down.
I have. I don't listen to it much,
They're
but I've heard.
Awesome. All right, listen. There are more of us than there are of them. God is still on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you tomorrow.